Go. I'll call to order the Personnel Committee on May 10th, 2023 at 5:18 p.m. Our first item is approval of the minutes from March 8th, 2023, and I'll need a motion from the committee.
So move.
Great. And we don't need a second for just the three-person committees. Any, so any discussion? No? All in favor of approving the minutes, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Moving on to item 3, public appearances for non-agenda items. Looks like nobody online. Anybody in person? No? All right. We can move on to number 4, our agenda items. Item 4A, classification title updates. Authorization to update the titles for the following classifications, and I assume we'll take them one by one?
Yes.
All right, we'll start with the commercial appraiser to the deputy city assessor.
All right, so included in the packet were job descriptions that were updated. So these are only job title updates. They're not changes in the pay for these positions. The reasoning for the changes to the job titles is just more industry norms. So for example, the deputy city assessor, it used to be called a commercial appraiser. If you look at the track changes of the job description, we actually, when we hired Craig Olson, we actually gave it a working title and posted it as a deputy city assessor. It actually does improve, it attracts more candidates to apply for the position. And it really more accurately reflects what a deputy city assessor is doing. So it's already in the appropriate pay grade. So we're really just looking for authorization to update the title of commercial appraiser to deputy city assessor.
Great.
And I've got Chris Leitz here, our city assessor, if you have any questions related to the assessing world. So.
I read through all the position descriptions and everything, and on this one, inside the position description, it still uses that previous title of senior commercial property appraiser on page 6 of the agenda packet. While you're looking at the physical copy there, but it's like the second sentence in or something in the position description.
Oh, yes, thank you for, yep, we'll get that updated to deputy city assessor. Thanks for catching that.
And if you are one of those people who are bothered by bad grammar, there's like a mix of singular and plural verbs in there. They need to measure and plot, but they also need to gathers and analyzes.
Oh, yeah,
so
we'll clean that up.
if you go through that whole list, you may find several of those.
Yeah, we will definitely clean that up.
Great. Any other comments, discussion? Okay, so I think we'll need to vote on each one of these.
Yes. Yep.
Okay, so we'll take a vote on changing this title to deputy city assessor with the small changes as suggested by Alder Jetzer. All in favor of? Oh, and we don't need do we need a motion?
We do need a motion.
Okay.
Yes.
So I'll take a motion to update the title to deputy city assessor with those changes from Alder Jetzer.
So move. Second.
Great. All those in favor? Say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Fabulous. All right, next up.
All right, the next one is the accounting manager to accounting manager / treasurer. So this is adding that treasurer designation to Carrie Miller, who is our accounting manager. And then I've got Misty on the call here as well if you have any questions related to that. I'd say of all the job description updates, that one was the one that had more updates to it, but it's still in line with the responsibilities of this level type of position. And we have not changed the qualifications. So we are truly just adding the treasurer designation to this job description.
And this is as a result of that, we're changing the comptroller status to the finance director.
Exactly, yep. So that's the next one is the finance director, just adding comptroller to the job title.
Yeah, and the finance director was the treasurer, and that's moving to the
Exactly, yep. So to better organize responsibilities, so the staff can help out.
Just a minor point. For the bullet point where it says prepare reports for uses for MMSD, could we spell, or am I looking at the wrong document?
Are you on bullet number 1?
No, it's like down the line. It's like the 12th, 13th bullet.
Yeah, it's the same. It's page 9. Page 9 of the packet.
Okay, and can you repeat that?
It says prepare reports for uses for MMSD. Would it, just for clarity, could we spell it out? I'm assuming you mean the sewage district, not the school district.
Yep, exactly.
Right. I just wanted to put that in there.
Yep, absolutely.
Good one. Great. Any other comments?
Yeah.
Oh,
So I noticed that there were some duties that shifted, like there were things removed or added to this and the finance director / comptroller. But it looks like the person who maintains the GL chart of accounts is neither of these positions anymore.
Yeah, Misty, do you want to share a little bit more about that?
Yep, so the accounting manager is the one that supervises all of the different transaction cycles. And then we have a new accountant position that is in charge of all of the reconciling and the maintenance of the GL. So the accounting manager would do like the account number, information and supervising those cycles. The accountant does the reconciliations and that type of a thing. So it's kind of split between those two pieces.
Just wanted to make sure nothing fell through the cracks.
Appreciate that.
Any other comments?
Just the spelling error.
Great.
Oh, you found a spelling error.
Yeah, do I get another ice cream cone?
Yeah, let's hear it.
The word access, you're, like one of the things is the Microsoft Office suite, access is missing a trailing S.
Oh, this must be under qualifications. Okay, yep, I see here. Got it, thank you.
Great. So I'll take a motion to change the title with some minor changes to the description as outlined by the committee.
So move.
Great. Moved by Alder Maldonado. All in favor of making the change, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries.
Okay, and so the next one is finance director to the finance director / comptroller. And you can see the updates to Misty's job title, or I'm sorry, job description there. And of course, Misty's here if you have any questions about the changes and updates.
The only question I had was, does the city administrator title need to change at all, or was there never a comptroller associated with that title? It was just a part of the duties? Okay.
Yeah, he's never had comptroller as part of the job title for city administrator.
Great.
Yep.
Any comments from the committee? All right, then I will take a motion to make that title change to Finance Director Comptroller.
So moved.
Moved by Alder Jetzer. All in favor of making the change, say aye.
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 Aye. Motion carries.
All right, and then the last job title change, we're going to be introducing pretty soon here as an agenda item, in addition of a project engineer without the PE license. We want to call that a project engineer, and we want to officially change the project engineer that's in pay grade K of the pay plan to a senior project engineer. So we have a hierarchy. We have an engineering technician, we'll have a project engineer, a senior project engineer, and then the assistant director and the director of public works. So we're really looking to just update all of the different engineers that you see in pay grade K of the pay plan. You know, we've got a utility project engineer, a project engineer, and then an environmental project engineer. We just want all of those engineers that have the PE license, the professional engineer license, to be called senior project engineer. Just simplify it a little bit here, and then be able to differentiate between an engineer that does not have a PE and one that does, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
Okay.
Are we moving away entirely from those specialties of engineers within the city then?
No, we'll still have the specialties, but we want to just keep it as one classification title.
Got it.
Yep.
Okay, so Ben Schulte will still focus on the environmental engineering.
Exactly.
And then we'll have
still
some-
have a transportation focus. We'll still have a utility focused engineer, but we're just going to call them senior project engineers to highlight that they have that PE license.
Great.
Yeah.
Is that an HR thing, or, I mean, because the title of traffic engineer and environmental engineer, that has meaningful value to people. So are we still going to call these people by those specific names, or?
I mean, we can always emphasize that in the job description. We can add the focus area it'll be throughout the job description, and we can highlight that in the title. But to have the one title for all 3 or 4 of those senior project engineers will be helpful, because we'll we'll be able to differentiate between someone who has the PE and someone who doesn't have the PE is kind of the thoughts there. But yeah, you're right. I mean, it is useful when you're recruiting to be able to highlight that we're looking for a utility-focused senior project engineer. And then, for example, we'll have that throughout the job description and advertisement.
Okay, I mean, even as recently as today, somebody was asked, so who is the traffic engineer in Fitchburg? And so I guess I want people to be able to continue to ask questions like that, and people will know the answer rather than, oh, I don't know, we got like 5 senior engineers. Let me go see which one is which.
Sure. I do have Tim here on the line as well. Tim, I don't know if you want to weigh in on the senior project engineer and the focus areas. If you have any thoughts about which way you'd like to go with that.
Yeah, I think how you guys had, or Sarah, how you described it, just, we're basically differentiating between the PE and not having a PE. The job duties, though, are going to dictate in the job description, whether they're a utilities engineer, environmental engineer, or transportation engineer. So I don't think that will be difficult to relay that information to the public or to the council on who's who.
I think one thing we can also do is ensure that our website is up to date and identifies who the respective senior project engineers are and what their area of focus or responsibility is. That could be another way to help convey that message to the public and or elected officials or whomever, that there's an easier way to differentiate that.
Great. Any other comments about the overall change or about the specific? I guess the description hasn't really changed. It's just that we're just changing.
And I just included the one of the, I believe it was the environmental senior project engineer job description there. I didn't include all of like the utility. The point that I was trying to show in the job description is that we're keeping a PE requirement for a senior project, but for a straight up project engineer, we're looking to take off years of experience, require bachelor's, but that's the next agenda item, so I'm jumping ahead, but.
So I just did a little web search while we were talking about that last point. So I noticed on the website there's like everybody that's currently, I'm assuming the website's up to date. What do we suggest based on that would be kind of changed or clarified?
I mean, we could have a listing of the employees. We could have, for example, Ross Collar, senior project engineer, transportation in parentheses, or, we could just have a little, we can differentiate on the website what their focus area is.
Got it.
Yep.
Great. Seeing no comments, let's go ahead. I'll take a motion to make this change.
So move.
Moved by Alder Maldonado. All in favor of changing project engineer with PE to senior project engineer, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Moving on to agenda item 4B, adding a new classification of project engineer without the professional engineer license.
Yeah, so as you know, we've struggled with finding engineers that have that PE and have years of experience. So we're trying to do something a little different here, and we're looking at, can we hire a brand new college grad right out of college, no years of experience without the PE, and hopefully bring them on, train them up, and then eventually there's that opportunity to advance into a senior project engineer once they get their PE and they have some years of experience. So this is really a goal to fill, we have a part-time vacant professional engineer that we need to fill. We have another full-time position. So we're hoping that by removing some barriers with the years of experience and the PE, that we will get some applicants for these positions. So we did send in the job description to our compensation consultant, Carlson Detman, and they did come back to say it should be in pay grade I. So if you have the pay plan in front of you, that's one pay range above an engineering technician. So we would, a project engineer would no longer supervise engineering technicians or interns. That would be the senior project engineer, which makes sense. You have someone straight out of college. It might not be wise to have them supervising right away anyway. So the project engineer is truly doing, it's entry-level professional engineering work.
This sounds like a great, I know we've been struggling, so it sounds like a really good opportunity to
exactly
bring in some new people and train them and have them become municipal engineers. Is it, So is this like a typical, so I think we have to be creative, right? Given all the challenges we've had over the years. Is this a typical thing that other
It
municipalities
is
are doing?
typical. Tim and I were just on a conference call with GovHR, so they are a consulting company that helps fill positions, and they also said that municipalities are really struggling with finding engineers with PEs. They made a suggestion that you should consider reducing your years of experience and dropping the PE requirement, and seeing who you get to apply. So that was one of the nice supporting information that we could use to say, yeah, maybe we should look at doing this. We knew we had to do something because we've been sitting on the part-time vacancy and the full-time for a while now. So we have to be creative, and we've got staff on that have PEs, so we feel confident and comfortable with doing this.
Two questions related to that. Is anything, I mean, I know I have a vague understanding of what a PE is versus like a standard engineer. I know there involves some licensure. Does any of that sort of standard involve management of staff or anything like that, or is that not a part of the process?
The PE is, so Tim could speak to the PE, but just as far as supervision, that is not part of the PE, is my understanding, correct, Tim? It's very much
Correct.
related to the engineering work.
Okay.
Okay.
You mentioned sort of a fresh out of college versus a more experienced person, and just from my experience, time in a profession doesn't always equate to management, and I'm wondering, just across the board beyond engineering and public works, what are the standards for Fitchburg in terms of somebody's ability to manage other people? Because I don't want to like throw any people under the bus, but like, so I mean, I've seen it in various professions where somebody's been around for a long time, but like they may be good at their job, but they're not necessarily good at like supervising other people or managing other people. Do we have like either things we look for prior to somebody coming on, or professional development for people that we already bring on so that they're better at management?
So both. When we're interviewing someone for a management level position, we always will have at least a couple of questions related to supervision, and how do you motivate staff is often a big one there. Tell us about your experience managing a team. So we'll ask questions in the interview process. We can get at some of that in the reference checking too, when we talk to their current supervisor or look at their performance evaluations. And then, of course, once they come on, we have leadership opportunities. So we have Cities and Villages Mutual Insurance, who does all of our training. They have some supervisory courses that employees can take.
Okay,
Yep.
thank you.
Go ahead.
Oh,
Page 21, the very upper right of the job description, you forgot to cross out senior.
oh,
Big bold.
oh, yeah, the big bold right under job description. Thank
I was
you.
initially confused about it. I'm like, hey, wait a second.
Right. Thank you for catching these. I think we would have eventually caught them, but thank you very much.
Do we anticipate that if someone is hired under this role and doesn't have their PE license, that they would pursue that as part, like while they're employed, or is?
That would be wonderful. So if somebody does get their PE while they're employed, and we have it in the budget where we can then bump them to the senior project engineer, that would be wonderful. But we would have to make sure we have it budgeted to move them into a senior project engineer.
And is that something that, because I know we do tuition reimbursement for different positions, is that something that we would consider for tuition reimbursement? Or not tuition, but
I think the current tuition reimbursement policy is only college-level courses at this time, so I don't know that a license, but it would be something we could start to look at. It's along the lines of something else we're bringing to you today with the CDL, so it's definitely a possibility. It might be something for a future personnel committee yet this year.
so we haven't faced that yet, right? Because
We
all of our
haven't.
engineers have had PE licenses.
Exactly,
Okay.
yeah.
The
Project engineer? Nope, those still reports assistant. Yeah,
The other question I had was like last year we created a trainee designation.
yep.
And my understanding was that this was in part to deal with the engineering deficits. is this like a more permanent version of that trainee designation?
It's a very more permanent,
Okay.
yep, exactly. Because the trainee designation, typically you'll hire someone with lesser qualifications or maybe no years of experience, and they should get up to speed within a year. With the engineers, the professional level, they need that education to kind of help be in that role. And so I think for long term, they were looking for actually a permanent classification that didn't have that licensure instead of going the trainee route. But that could have been an option, is to just hire someone using the trainee designation. And then hopefully within a year, they're up to speed. But I think the nature of the work of the engineer and the level of complexity and experience, or the education it really requires, that foundation requires for us to have just a permanent classification without the PE.
Okay. The only downside I would see about not having the trainee designation is that there was that opportunity to assess at the end of a period of time whether or not they were succeeding in the role and were a good fit, given time to learn the role.
Yeah.
And, you know, I'm sure that an engineering student coming out and being trained is going to be a great opportunity, but is there any, I don't know if we have like a period of time where we can dismiss somebody if they're not able to
So
make the
all
role?
employees here at Fitchburg are at-will employees, so we can end the employment at any time if they're not performing up to expectation. So even in the trainee designation, we would still we would put good efforts to make this person, bring them up to speed and ensure that the position's working out for them. So it's not like it gives them a longer probationary period or orientation period or anything like that, but all of our employees, you know, if it's not working out, if we hire a brand new person into this position without the PE and they don't have any years and it doesn't work out, the city can work with them. I mean, we're always going to try to work with them on a performance improvement plan before we would just end the employment relationship.
Yeah. The other concern I have is in terms of like, I think this is a good, we need people in these positions, right? Like it's better to have somebody than not have someone, but that also puts some burden on the senior project engineers and the assistant director and the director to train somebody that needs a little bit more work. Tim, do you feel like you have that capacity to take on that type of more intensive training that would be required for somebody in this type of position?
So we've had these discussions internally between the assistant director, the senior project engineers, and even our current engineer Ross to make sure we can handle that. We feel confident we can, so that's why we decided to proceed with this route.
Great.
Yeah, I was just noting that the list of duties and responsibilities is pretty much identical to that of the engineer with the PE license. Yep. And so I was wondering, so this might be more than somebody straight out of college might think they're prepared to bite off. And so what sort of an onboarding process do we have? And then just kind of to piggyback on what Gabriella said, is there within HR any sort of formal review schedule with new employees?
So HR does not sit down with employees, 3, 6, 9 months out, after they've started to see how they're performing. And we really leave that to the supervisor to have those regular check-ins with their staff. And if they feel like the employee's struggling and there's any performance issues, then they come to human resources. And that's where we can work together to try to get the employee up to speed. The PE is almost like a stamp. Tim, can you talk about what a PE, what exactly that does? What does that mean if someone has that?
So in order to become a PE, you need to have a bachelor's degree from an engineering school that's ABET accredited. Then once you get that degree, you can take the FE exam. And the FE exam is the fundamentals of engineering. It's an 8-hour exam. You pass that, and then you can take your PE exam. I believe you can take it right away now. When I took it, I had to wait 4 years, get 4 years of working experience, and then take the professional engineering exam, which is another 8-hour exam. But now I believe you can take it right away, but you still have to wait the 4 years to get the experience. So then once you pass the 8-hour PE exam, you apply with the state to get your license. And then every 2 years is when you do continuing education and then renew that license.
So we'll definitely have them shadowing with the senior project engineers to make sure that they're getting up to speed and learning their role. So yeah, there is a lot in the job description because ultimately we want them to be able to perform quite a bit here. But it truly is, I mean, we will train. We understand they're coming out of school and the expectation is that they're going to need some assistance and training from the seniors and the assistant director.
Do we think there's some potential opportunity for an engineering technician or engineering intern to fill the role?
Absolutely, absolutely. Now that we have this new classification, an engineering technician would be eligible. It's not always easy to get that PE. There's several people that will go to take the PE and then they continually don't pass. So it's a hard license to get.
Great. Yep.
How wide do we usually recruit for engineering or for public works positions? Is it just local or do we go?
We go all over. So we'll sometimes do the national APWA. We always do the Wisconsin chapter, LinkedIn, Indeed, all of our normal recruitment sites that we always post everything out. So we go truly open and competitive and we throw it far and wide to get it.
Can I add a suggestion just because I know you're really good at kind of following through with connections? NSBE, National Society for Black Engineers, as well as the Society for Hispanic Professional Engineers. They both have chapters on UW-Madison's campus, and they're also connected to a broader professional network. So I think that would just be, a good source for kind of diversifying our hiring.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, no problem.
All right.
Oh, and I'll also just add a plug. Derek Johnson, he's at the School of Engineering, and he works specifically within kind of DEI efforts for students, so he might have access to alum who are interested in positions when they open.
Thank you.
All right. Well, I will take a motion from the committee on adding a new classification of project engineer without the professional engineer license.
So moved.
So moved.
Alder Maldonado moved. Any other discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Moving on to item 4C, commercial driver's license training policy and procedure update.
Yeah, so last year we were struggling with hiring maintenance workers. You can see it, we had a tough year last year in hiring for a number of our positions. We were looking for people who had a commercial driver's license, a CDL. And so last year we started to hire employees who did not have the CDL. As long as the majority of our employees had that, what we had is we have two classifications. We have one with CDL that are in a higher pay grade, and we have those without a CDL in a lower pay grade. So they came in at a lower pay grade. We have just 2 employees in our entire Public Works department that don't have a CDL, and in the budget, our utility supervisor and our parks supervisor put in their budget $5,000 for each employee to get their CDL. So it's $5,000 to get the training and get the test. What we'd like to do is have a policy and procedure set forth so that employees could go and get the CDL training. What we're afraid of course, is sending a brand new employee in for CDL training and then losing them right away, because you can make quite a bit in the private sector with a CDL. So our proposed policy and procedure, we're hoping that if they leave within 3 years, that we can go and try to get reimbursement for that. We're working with legal right now on kind of finalizing that acknowledgement agreement form to make sure that we can, try to get that money back if they leave within 3 years. And but if they're laid off, there's an involuntary termination. Of course, that is out of their control. We wouldn't try to get that money back. If an employee fails the CDL training, the class, or the test, the employee will be responsible for the costs associated with retaking the class and or the test. So if it's due to their own, poor attendance, maybe misconduct, that they failed the class, obviously we'd want them to pay us back. But if it was something where they tried really hard, they didn't pass the test, we're not looking to get reimbursed. The reason we're trying to give the money right away to them, we're not requiring them to pay for it and then we reimburse them, is because sometimes that's a barrier in itself. It's $5,000. So if we have it budgeted, which we already do this year, we want to be able to just pay for it and then hopefully hang on to that employee for at least 3 years.
I'm just wondering, does the city ever hire formerly incarcerated people who might still have to wear like an ankle bracelet, and what sort of wrinkle might that throw into their ability to drive, especially heavy vehicles?
So the city hires, and we always use a job relatedness test when we get background results. We always work with legal. So I'm not aware of us ever hiring someone that had a ankle bracelet, but we would always have to work with legal on any decisions made on hiring with someone who has a background. We will certainly hire someone who has something on their background as long as it's not substantially related. There's a job relatedness test. You look at the recency, what the offense was, the opportunity to reoffend. So again, we work with legal on that. When we hire someone to be a CDL driver, we have to make sure that they have a valid driver's license. So that's number one. And then we just make sure that they pass the criminal background check.
All right, yeah, my concern wasn't necessarily with the criminal background check so much as whether they are legally allowed to drive. I have an anecdote from a coworker whose son worked for a landscaping firm, and like his first day, the guy he was with tossed him the keys to the truck, and he's like, well, I'm the new guy, can't I? I mean, I shouldn't be driving, and the other guy just pulled up his leg and said, I'm not allowed. And so that's really more my concern, because I would encourage the city to hire formerly incarcerated people. And I know the ankle bracelet can sometimes be a burden that restricts their freedom more so than their coworkers. And I didn't know if this was, something that we'd considered.
Having a valid driver's license is a requirement for this specific position, so they would have to be able to drive to be a maintenance worker. But for other positions that don't require driving, just the ability to get to work to meet the transportation requirements and don't require DL, then that wouldn't be an issue. I hope that answers your question.
Well, I mean, it may be out of, the whole idea of somebody getting a CDL is predicated on their legal ability to do so. And I'm not aware of, what the law says on that matter.
Correct. So if nobody's forced to get a CDL. So that's the beauty of it, is that we have this classification that is without a CDL that's in a lower pay grade. So this is totally voluntary on the employee. So it is going to be up to them if they want to go to get that CDL. But at least here it's an option, and we're investing in the employee. We're putting them through the training if they want it.
Are there vehicles that cannot be driven except by somebody with a CDL, or is it?
Absolutely,
okay.
Yep. Things like snowplow trucks. There's certain equipment that can only you have to have a CDL to be able to operate, even like street sweeper.
So we end up hiring a lot of individuals that have it.
Absolutely, yeah. The majority of our maintenance workers come with the CDL.
If we had an employee that decided to pursue a CDL and received it, would they then be eligible to drive
Yep.
other vehicles, and it would kind of help?
Yep, they'd be required to too, because they'll be moving up to a higher pay grade and higher pay.
Okay.
And so they'll be taking on additional duties. Yep.
Great. Do we anticipate that there are people that will take advantage of it this year?
Yeah, we have 2 already that are very interested and want to get the CDL training, and we already have it budgeted. So our former director put it in the budget for this year for those 2 employees.
Do we anticipate that after this training policy, they'll be able to pursue that quickly, or is
Yeah,
it? Okay.
yeah. We'll be able to get moving on it.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Any other comments?
Well, I don't know if Joe had, I was monopolizing the conversation here. What are the budget implications? Like if in the middle of a year, if it's not in the budget, are you able to send somebody or to reimburse them, or do you tell them, pay for it now and we'll reimburse you next year, we'll get it in the budget?
No, this policy makes it so that the city will pay for it. They don't have to front the cost and wait to get reimbursed. So it has to be budgeted. That's the thing. So if we went on a hiring spree and hired 5 brand new maintenance workers without a CDL, we would have to make sure it was in our budget to put 5 employees, if all 5 wanted, to put them through the training. And it's $5,000 apiece. There's opportunity later on where potentially one of our employees could become a trainer in-house and be able to train the program, and then it would just be the cost of the test. We're not there yet. We don't have that in place yet, but that might be a long-term solution, so that we can forego a $5,000 charge, and then we can just have someone in-house do it.
Okay, so if you get too many applicants, you'll say, okay, we'll put you on the list, we'll get it in next year's budget,
Exactly.
and that's when you can do your training.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yep.
Do we only have 2 individuals? Because we only have 2 slots available in the budget.
We only
for
have
this
2
year.
employees, and that's why they put in for 2
Okay,
people
great.
in the budget.
Well, I just say to Tim that I would be happy to entertain a budget amendment mid-year if there was someone that wanted to pursue it and we wanted to use vacancy funding, so never, if there's someone that wants it and we have some vacancy funding, you should always feel free to bring that to the council.
Thank you.
'Cause,
And- I'm sorry.
Agreed.
yeah.
And moving forward, we intend to include funding for 2 positions, just in the budget as a matter of routine. So that way, if there are mid-year hires into this pay grade, the money has already been approved through the budget process to obviously help avoid those mid-year budget amendments and those sorts of things.
Great. Any other comments? All right, so and we do need to take a vote on this. All right, so I will take a motion from the committee about, I guess, accepting the commercial driver's license training policy and procedure section of the,
So moved.
Second.
all right, we have a motion on the table. If there's no other discussion, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Moving on to agenda item 4D, adding the classification of deputy city administrator to pay grade R.
Super excited to bring this one to you tonight. So this is to get some assistance for Chad. The deputy city administrator is a brand-new classification. It's already been budgeted for this year. So actually, it's something that we could have filled earlier this year, but we were working with Baker Tilly, who's doing the organizational review and staffing study, and wanted to make sure that they agreed, yes, you really need to have a deputy city administrator. So they went through all their employee meetings, and after all those meetings and their preliminary work, they did agree that we need to have additional support for Chad. So we put together a draft job description. We did have Baker Tilly review it. They also agreed that this was a good setup, so I included that in the packet. We sent this on to our compensation consultant. They identified this to be in pay grade R, so in the pay plan that is at the top of the pay plan. And primarily, that's because they will be supervising other department heads. So, we're talking parks, forestry, recreation, senior center, the IT director, library, fact TV, city clerk, and assessing. So these departments have been identified for now. Of course, if someone gets in this role and the city identifies maybe we need to do a little tweaking to the different departments, we want that flexibility that this isn't meant to be a final. It may change. This is our first time with the deputy city administrator, so we didn't really want to be stuck with these departments necessarily for the final. But anyway, the responsibilities and duties here are listed, and really, again, it's to help give that support to the city administrator, because there's a lot of people who are reporting to the city administrator at this point, and it's just hard to manage. So we would be able to post as soon as sometime next week. We'll go open competitive. We're going to do a really great job with outreach on this one. This is a really great opportunity. So a new department head does not come up very often here.
Appreciate the waiting until Baker Tilly analyzed it, because I know that was a part of the budget discussion last year. So really appreciate that thoroughness, and excited that we're going to be able to post this soon. Hopefully we get some good candidates. And I'm sure Chad is very excited.
I am beyond excited, hopefully, after the vote here coming up.
Yeah. It was pretty, it was pretty, Baker Tilly's memo on it was pretty resounding in its, backing you up on the need for this position. So,
Well, I will add that this position was identified with a different title, but back in 2006 in an organizational study that the city had done all the way back then, for whatever reason, it was never added in. And, clearly it's long overdue when you're talking, 17 years since it was first recommended. So I appreciate the support, obviously, that council has given it through the budget process, and obviously the work that Sarah and others have done to get this position in line, and I think it's going to help set the city's organizational structure up for the future.
Yeah, especially going into these next few years, I think it'll be
Oh, absolutely.
absolutely essential. Yeah. Any comments?
Just to clarify, so this is, the position is in the budget for this year. Is it at grade R, or are we moving it to grade R from wherever it is now?
So I am not positive where Misty had it budgeted. I think it was more than likely pretty high, though, because we knew it was going to be, department heads were going to be reporting to it. So it may be off by maybe one pay grade, but based on the fact that we're not going to be filling it for a while either. I mean, here it's May. We're probably not going to have someone in this role until at least July. So we'll have the salary savings from the whole first half of the year to help with that.
All right. Well, I will accept a motion from the committee on adding the classification of deputy city administrator to pay grade R.
So move.
Moved by Alder Maldonado. And if there's no more discussion, we'll go ahead and take a vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Congrats. Moving on to item 4E, Employee Handbook Update, Policy 3.21.2, Holiday Work.
Yeah, so in front of you, we have a holiday work policy, and what we're looking to do is we want to compensate employees, all non-represented employees, for having to work on a holiday. So our police and fire represented employees already get a holiday premium, so this is out of the employee handbook that only addresses non-represented employees. Our paid-on-call firefighters is a perfect example of one of the groups that have been left out of holiday pay. So currently, if they work a holiday, they just get paid their $9 per hour or whatever the amount is that they have if they have certifications. Now, we'll be able to give them a halftime premium for working on a holiday, a city-observed holiday. So this is a really a recognized holiday, excuse me. So this is a good policy. We also want to make sure, our maintenance workers, if they have to come in on a holiday to plow streets, we want to make sure that they're getting a holiday premium. So there's a number of different employees, IT, for example, FACT TV. So it's really for employees who have to come in on a holiday to meet minimum operational needs. So if someone doesn't traditionally work on a holiday, they shouldn't be all of a sudden working on a holiday. So we'll have a frequently asked questions, and we have let department heads know that they do have to approve the timesheet and put a little note as to why the person was working on a holiday. We just want to make sure that people are working on a holiday only because they have to, and not because now they want to, because they're going to get halftime premium. So. But really, this is a great policy improvement, I think, because people's time is precious, especially on holidays. So we want to make sure that they're compensated for that time.
I'm curious about so before you had a separate section for police sergeants and police telecommunicators.
Yep, so they're
and now-
just included in that. So we used to have them separate, but they're part of the non-represented employees, so they are still eligible. So they would be included in the holiday premium. So just trying to clean that up so we don't have two separate policies for two different, groups of employees.
Everyone's the same.
Everyone's the same.
Yeah.
That's non-represented. Yep.
And then is there a reason that the Easter holiday in specific was called out at the end of the policy?
Yeah, because the police union has Easter as a holiday, and police sergeants are non-represented in the employee handbook. So we've always traditionally treated our police sergeants and our other non-represented police employees like the represented police employees. So they have Easter. Same. We would like to make sure that our sergeants and our on-call dispatchers also receive Easter, or dispatchers for that matter.
Great, so called it out specifically because of
Exactly,
that contract. Okay.
yep.
You keep it even
Yep.
within the police department.
You got it. Yep.
Any questions or comments? Yeah?
I have a couple.
Yeah.
Sometimes this holiday pay is referred to as a premium and sometimes as an incentive.
Mm-hmm.
I guess my own personal preference would be to call it a premium because it's kind of a recognition that, hey, we know we're doing something that's kind of inconvenient and we're going to compensate you for it, whereas incentive makes it sound like, hey, if you want to be a team player.
Yeah, it should be referred to as a holiday premium. So if I said incentive, forgive me. But yeah, holiday premium is really what it should be. We're not trying to incentivize employees to start working on holidays to get an extra premium, but we want to make sure that we compensate them appropriately for having to work a holiday.
Okay, good. Also, It sounds like from a reading of the verbiage there that they'll be paid the extra 50% on the first 4 hours beyond normal on a half-day holiday and up to their normal shift length on a full-day holiday. But what happens if they work in excess of that? Do they drop back down and just get straight pay? Or do we do daily overtime?
So we tried to do this in line with the contracts. The fire contract, for example, they only go up to 12 hours for holiday pay on a full-day holiday. So that's where we're trying to have some parity there between the contract there. But for example, if someone works more than 50% of their regular schedule, they're only going to get a max of 4 hours for a half-day holiday. So we are truly limiting the hours of the holiday hours that they're working. And Chad is going to help me out here because he senses I'm struggling.
No, I don't think, I think I might be able to contribute, really. So in regards to if somebody works, for instance, normally works an 8-hour day, and then they've either volunteered or been told they're going to be working a 12-hour day, or even 16 in a really horrible case situation. In most situations, certain hours are going to be overtime already. Once they hit 40 in their work week, or in the case of our public safety employees, it's typically anything over 8 hours in a day equates to overtime. So that would, they'd be getting paid the overtime, plus they would still get the premium on top of any overtime hours. Again, it's the premium for working the holidays. So, because in the past, particularly like in the highway maintenance department, for instance, if they were coming in on a holiday, it would be overtime perhaps if, say, they got called in on a Saturday, they'd worked the whole week already. There was no premium paid for them having to come in on a holiday, so that's why we've written it this way, so that whatever hours or whatever rate the employee is being paid at, either straight or overtime, the premium will be tacked on to that.
Thank you.
Great. If there aren't any other questions, I'll go ahead and take a motion from the committee to update the employee handbook policy 3.21.2 holiday work.
So moved.
All right, it's going to be updated as laid out in the packet. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Moving on to agenda item 5, report from the department.
Yeah, so included in the packet was the newsletter from Baker Tilly. It's just a one-page newsletter update. This is really meant to let employees know where they're at in the process. So what to expect next. We'll have a draft report in June, and then a final report in July. So Baker Tilly will be coming to the Personnel Committee in July to give you a presentation on their findings and their recommendations. We'll probably open that up to elected officials as well, so anyone can attend. So we'll make sure there's a notice of potential quorum, and basically we're right on schedule. So they've met with all the employees, they've met with elected officials prior to you joining, and so they've gathered everything that they have. So at this point, we're just going to be waiting for a draft report from them in June.
I liked the summary
Yeah.
of where we stand with a kind of a preview of what's happening. So what date is that meeting? Oh, presentation July 12th?
Yep. So it'll be our normally scheduled July Personnel Committee.
Okay, I can let the
Yeah,
council know as well.
that'd be great.
July 12th.
And then we're also working on a mission, vision, and core values initiative, a project. So we have our first core team meeting tomorrow. So we had an email sent out to all city staff looking for volunteers from different departments. We had volunteers from almost all departments, and so we'll sit down tomorrow and talk about kind of the process. We want to make sure all employees are included and have a voice in, putting together a mission, vision, and update of our core values. So we anticipate having numerous employee meetings on a smaller scale. Sometimes you bring people into one large room and you're asking for participation, and people don't want to participate. So we want to make sure that we have smaller group meetings, and we've got some good questions in play. and we get a good brainstorming session. The focus group, what they're going to be charged with doing is bringing back everything that we get from the employee meetings, and then starting to draft a sample mission, vision, and core values, then sending it back out to the employees, and even holding listening sessions for employees to stop in, provide suggestions, ideas. And then we would continue on with the draft, and then eventually present what we feel based on all the employee meetings and the feedback from listening sessions, what the draft mission, vision, core values is. Get a little bit more feedback, and then we'll also then bring it to a September personnel committee. One of the things we're going to be doing is gathering a group of community members as well, and we're going to be asking them questions, but from a resident standpoint, so kind of similar questions that we're asking the employees, but from a different lens, basically. So what we'd like to do then too is share what our draft's mission, vision, core values is with the community members, and we're looking probably at a group of 10 or less to be part of that process. So if you have any thoughts or ideas on, some community members that we could tap into that might be interested in helping us out, ideally we would want them to be Fitchburg residents, so they can weigh in on, what the city of Fitchburg employees, mission, vision, but really ultimately it needs to come from the employees, right? This is what we live and breathe and do every day, and we have to believe it, and it has to drive us and motivate us. So, we want this to be something people know right off the bat. You ask them what the city's mission is, and they should be able to tell you. You should see it, up when you walk into City Hall, and you should feel motivated. And so we want to make sure it's something that resonates with employees. So that's really why the primary focus is coming from the employees.
Can you share who's on the
group? So Mark Hodel from Streets. We got Megan Christian and Ned Hartwick from Police. Jack Pearson and Gabe Schrader from Building Inspection, Wendy from Library, Carla Tooley from Clerks, Rob Coonsey from Fire, Jeremy Crosby from Fact TV, Joyce from Econ Development, and myself. We're still taking volunteers, so if any employees are still interested, the group can be big. So.
Great.
Are there things you're thinking about in particular that you want to see in the statements?
Absolutely. I think we need to make sure that we are inclusive. I think some of the core values that we already have are very good. Service excellence, dedication, initiative. So there are things that our core values are good now, but they haven't been updated since 2014. And we have no mission and we have no vision statement, right? So it's going to be interesting to see what comes out of the group, but ultimately this should come from the employees, and it'll be a good brainstorming session, and I'm really excited to be part of this.
Are there any thoughts on getting resident feedback?
So we would have a group of residents to be part of. We would gather some feedback from them and also present to them kind of what our drafts are. We haven't thought about larger scale, sharing of residents. So if you have thoughts or ideas on what that might look like, we can definitely talk about it in our team meeting.
Okay.
Yep.
Are you thinking like ad hoc committee or more like
It would
public information meetings?
Thinking more of like an ad hoc committee, so not necessarily having a public meeting, but I mean, we still haven't even met. We meet tomorrow, so the team might suggest some things that we haven't even thought about yet. So kind of waiting to see what comes out of tomorrow's meeting.
I think we would look, as Sarah mentioned earlier in her rundown, seeking input from this committee as far as which community members might we want to reach out to. I don't envision an ad hoc committee being created, largely because, as Sarah mentioned, this is not a city of Fitchburg mission, vision, and values statement that our residents are creating. This is an organizational city employee mission, vision, and values.
Okay.
Why are we here? Why do we come to work? What are we supposed to do? How do we prioritize our work? What are we focusing on? And that really, as Sarah had mentioned, really needs to come from the employees so that there's buy-in there, right? Absent that buy-in, it's not likely to be successful. However, I want to give Sarah and Ned Hartwick in the police department a huge amount of credit for developing the process that they've identified, which did come with a component to seek community input and feedback, just not on a scale you might see if we were doing, say, a comp plan amendment, or a comp plan update, or those sorts of things. So those are things that truly affect, the city as a whole. While I recognize service provision affects the city as a whole, this truly needs to be an employee-driven initiative.
Fabulous.
And then the last thing there I got is the employee, or did you want to talk about anything else with Mission Vision before?
No,
Okay.
I think we can.
And then we have an employee rules of conduct policy. It's a draft policy right now, so I actually don't have anything to share with you, but I wanted to let you know what's in the works. So right now, the employee handbook lacks things like, if someone is having major absenteeism issues or there's misconduct outside of the workplace, what are some of the expectations of being an employee here? And so there's a draft employee rules of conduct policy that we're working through with legal right now. And the first step is anytime you create a brand new policy, we have to get the employees involved. And so I envision sharing the draft policy with employees and then having some listening sessions to get feedback and see what their suggestions are or answer any questions that they have, and then presenting the personnel committee this brand new policy because it impacts the employees, and it's a brand new policy on work expectations, basically. So it's going to help us, things like insubordination. If someone's being insubordinate to their supervisor, right now we have no policy on that. We don't have anything to go back to if we needed to start down the road of progressive discipline. So there's things like that we need to put into a policy, such as a work rules policy. So I just want to let you know that that's something that the HR department is working on.
Are there any questions for Sarah on the committee about this or any other items? Is there anything else you'd like to add, Sarah?
No.
Okay.
It's an exciting year. There's a lot going on.
Yeah,
Yes.
it's busy, as always. I mean, I guess it's never not busy.
Right.
But lots going on with the employee groups, so that's
Right.
exciting. All right, so we can go ahead and move on to agenda item 6, announcements.
Yeah, I just wanted to let you know we had just hired 2 brand new lateral police officers on Tuesday, and they were Monday, they were employee referrals from 2 officers. So that's really exciting. So that was the referral bonus program that you approved in the last personnel meeting. So we're already starting to use it. So very exciting.
So does this bring us from 11 to 9?
Yes.
Just on my math.
And we have 3 that potentially are going to be hired in early June to go to the June Academy. So they're on the tail end of the background for those 3. So I do anticipate we'll have 3 more filled early June.
Congratulations.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, that's really great to see a policy
Yeah.
come through
Yeah.
so quickly. I feel like that rarely
Absolutely.
happens.
Yeah, well, and thank you to you guys for supporting it, right? I mean,
Absolutely.
it's critical in the process, whether we're talking a program like that to help encourage, filling of vacancies through employee referrals or any of the items that we work through on the agenda. I mean, your support and feedback through all of those things probably has more effect throughout City Hall than you probably ultimately realize, so thank you.
I mentioned this to Sarah before the meeting, and I was going to mention it in my Alder report, but last Sunday, I was just out in my backyard, and there was a car accident, like right down the street from me, and there were, I believe, 3 Spanish-speaking officers, as well as, I believe, an EMS and potentially firefighter. Might not be accurate on all the people that were there. There was a lot going on, but I know we passed the incentive pay for Spanish-speaking officers, so that was that in effect. And I mentioned it to one of the officers, and they were very cognizant, aware, and appreciative of it.
Oh, they truly appreciate it. We have probably about 15 Spanish speakers on staff, and they were all really excited to take the test. One of our new officers that started on Monday is bilingual in Spanish, so he takes his test tomorrow or Friday morning. So it is a very great benefit that we have here, and so thank you for passing that last year. A lot of great progress has been made from the Personnel Committee.
May I ask with the lateral transfers, the bonus, was that referrals like the employees within the police department, or was it other employees around the?
It was in the police department.
Okay.
Yep.
Nice.
Yeah.
Really, and I guess there are probably other potentials too, but anyway. It's very exciting.
Yep, yep.
Thanks for that update. Any other announcements?
No,
I think our next meeting then is going to be July 12th.
Yes.
And we'll expect a presentation from Baker Tilly at that time.
yep.
All right. If there's nothing else, we'll go ahead and take a motion to adjourn.
So move.
All right, a motion to adjourn. All in favor, say aye.
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 We are adjourned at 6:16 PM. Thanks so much.